What's going on, fellow backpackers? My name is Dan, and today I need your help. Even though it's only early September, I am already thinking about cold weather backpacking, and top of mind for me right now are winter gloves. Now, for many years, I've been using these possum down gloves, which I actually did a review on sometime last year, and in that review, I generally praised these gloves. But recently, I have changed my mind. So for those that haven't heard of possum down, what makes these things special is that the fibers of the possum down fur are hollow, so it acts very similar to down. So the warmth to weight ratio on these things are fantastic. They are extremely lightweight, small, packable gloves, but they're still very warm. And that's really the main reason why I have been using these things for so many years, because my fingers tend to get fairly cold. So I wanted a glove that was fairly warm, but still very small and lightweight. And they actually do blend these things with merino wool to add in some extra durability, because possum down fur just by itself isn't all that durable. So again, the warmth to weight ratio on these things are fantastic, but they do have one fatal flaw, and that is the fact that if they get even moderately wet, they just absolutely start to fall apart. And I mentioned this in my review last year, and I'd actually been using these gloves for a good 3 years or so before I did that review, so I knew that this was a problem. But at the time, I was just kind of okay with it because, again, these gloves are so awesome as far as their warmth to weight ratio. I was okay with just putting up with the fact that I would have to essentially just buy a new pair every single year. But the last and final straw was last year when I did a trip to the Ozarks in Missouri. And on the very last day, it was a cold, rainy day. And even though I had brand new possum down gloves, they were absolutely destroyed just after one day of rainy hiking. Now I know what you're thinking, and the answer is yes. I do actually use a rain mitt along with my gloves. So whenever it rains or snows, I just slip these things on to add some extra rain protection. But if you've ever hiked in the rain or in a lot of snow before, you know that no matter what, your gloves and hands are just going to get wet. That's just going to happen. Especially for me when I'm filming my hiking trips and I have to constantly be taking off my gloves so that I can work my camera. Yeah, again, they're just going to get wet. I mean, these are going to offer some protection for sure, but no matter what, they're going to get wet at least somewhat. And what tends to happen with possum down when it gets wet is the fibers, especially the possum down fibers, just start to pull apart and they fall off of the glove. So it really starts to limit the warmth of these gloves. And you can see that they start to get holes in them too. And this was actually just based off of one winter's use, and they already start to look like this. So again, I am just totally done with these gloves because of that durability problem. I just don't want to have to keep buying them every single year. And more importantly, I don't want my gloves to get ruined after one rainy or snowy trip. So here's where you come in. I sincerely need some help in picking some new winter gloves. So a few criteria that need to be met with these new gloves. Number one, they have to be warmer than the average glove. My fingers tend to get cold pretty quickly in the winter, so I can't really go with something that's just like a standard thin merino wool glove liner. I need something a tad bit warmer than that. Number two, I would prefer to use a glove instead of a mitten, even though mittens do tend to be warmer than gloves. And I actually already have a pair of these Enlightened Equipment Stronghold mittens, which are generally too warm for me to use while I'm hiking, but I do tend to use them at camp sometimes. But the reason why I want to have a glove instead of a mitten is really just for added dexterity, especially again because I tend to record my hiking videos. It just helps me a lot to be able to use my fingers while I'm hiking. So if I have to go with the mitten for that added warmth, then I will. But again, I would prefer to stick with the glove. Number three, and this one should be obvious based on all the bad stuff I just said about possum down gloves, but it has to be at least somewhat durable. It cannot fall apart like these possum down gloves will also have the exact same problem that I already have. So it has to be something that is a bit more durable. Number 4, I would really like them to be something that I can still layer with, like with these rain mitts or even with these much warmer mittens from Enlightened Equipment. So I can't go with like a gigantic like ski glove or something like that. It does need to be something that is, reasonable when it comes to overall size. And lastly, number 5, this is kind of more of a bonus item for me, so by no means do I think that this is a requirement for the gloves that I need, but it would be kind of nice if they were at least somewhat weather resistant as far as both wind and precipitation. I would much rather have gloves that are breathable, and then when I do need to either block wind and or rain, I could just use a rain mitt. But again, if it's at least somewhat weather resistant but while still being fairly breathable, then hey, I'll take it. So I would sincerely appreciate it if you leave a comment to let me know any suggestions that you have for winter gloves that are going to fit the bill for all the criteria that I mentioned. I seriously need some help in this regard, so any and all suggestions that you have would be super appreciated. Well, stick around for some bloopers as always, and thank you in advance for all of your suggestions. This will seriously help me out as I prepare for the upcoming winter season. And of course, have fun out there. What the hell do I want to say? September, I'm all... I still love these gloves for that off... Jeez Louise. Had to burp at least once.